Good morning, everyone. You're all very welcome to this morning's EuroSTAR webinar, sponsored today by Neotis. This morning's webinar is titled Load and Performance Testing of Web Applications and RIAs, and will be presented by Benoit Derouet of Neotis in France. Following today's presentation, we will have a question and answer session. Please feel free throughout the webinar today to ask a question using the Question and Answers Manager. You can select the Q&A tab on the top left-hand of your screen. There you can type in your question and press Enter. Your question then will go into a list to be answered following Benoit's presentation this morning. So now I will hand you over to Benoit. So good morning, Benoit.
Good morning. So thank you very much for attending our presentation on load and performance testing of web applications and rich internet applications. I first would like to welcome you to this presentation, and I will be going through the first part of this webinar. I'm Thomas, and then you will have the chance to have your questions answered by Benoit Derouet, who is the Neotis Research and Development Director. So first of all, let me present to you rapidly who Neotis is and what we do. We are the software provider of NeoLoad. We're a French company with offices in France and in the US, and we have now over 600 clients in 50 countries, and we started in 2005. So the goal of today's presentation is to see and to find the solutions to the main challenges that you are facing or you will be facing in order to be able to load test today's web applications. And there will be a focus on two specific points. The first one is how to respond successfully to business pressure, which I'm quite sure you're familiar with, and especially with questions like how do I deliver my project on time and on budget? And obviously with the current economic situation, this is even more important than ever. And obviously that's a strong impact on your day-to-day activity. And the second challenge is how do I test my increasingly complex applications and the newer applications, the rich internet applications that you will be seeing more and more. So for the first challenge, I guess we could put it down to what you're being asked, which is how to complete more tests and to be more cost effective, to do more with less, in a few words. So we believe this is due to a number of reasons, and mainly because businesses need to have more reliable, more robust, and more scalable applications. So why is it true, and even more true for web applications? It is because they're increasingly important within companies, increasing in numbers, but also they become more and more critical. So that's why you must ensure you're able to test them and to load test them. So it's also very strategic for companies to test these applications in a shorter time frame, because time to market can generate a real competitive advantage. And obviously web applications improve user friendliness, user interactions, enable centralized and almost real-time access to information, which can have a strong impact on employees' productivity and on a company in a whole. So this is also why every time an application is changed, it should be tested again in order to reduce risks that are coming with changes. So question of script maintenance and performance comparison will also be addressed. So we believe there's a couple of areas of improvements in the testing processes and for load testing. The first one is the flexibility of the load testing software you use. That's how it can adapt to these changes, and its licensing, obviously. And also the time that's required to execute the entire engagement. So that's true on also for methodology and how the tool set can adapt to newer testing methods like agile testing, and it's obviously quite important. So how do we achieve it? We believe using a modern tool is a must, and by using a modern tool you will be able to achieve a lot more, obviously, on your testing engagements. So by modern we mean designed and made for web applications to fit them better, which is innovative, to provide you with the advantages of technology and to obviously support the most complex frameworks and the latest applications. And it also has to be, we believe, user-friendly in order to handle those web applications just as easily as you used to handle the older ones. So that's quite important, that by being user-friendly, it enables you to do testing faster and better. So in order to increase your productivity by using a modern tool adapted to today's web application, which will offer you in the end a better return on investment, you need to look at a few criteria that are critical. The first one is that it must be easy and fast to install on any platform, so it must support Windows, Linux, and all the different ones. The scenarios for your load test must be easy and fast to create, even for complex applications, and the same thing applies to maintaining them. It also, the test tool you use must be efficient to generate the required load. What would you say if you had to use more hardware to generate the load than the actual servers you want to test? That wouldn't be very good. And obviously, the most important part is to be able to have precise monitoring and reporting included in the tool set so that you can actually take some actions, make some changes, test again, and ensure that your applications are released with optimum performance. So this picture actually shows you what a typical time allocation for load testing engagement is. Obviously, I'm sure you're quite aware that designing the test cases takes quite a long time. And on the left-hand side, we believe it's more of the older tool, older technology where you have a lot of scripting that takes a lot of time. And as time is not unlimited in load testing projects, obviously the time you spend on scripting, you will not be able to spend it on analyzing your results and on giving better recommendation. So that's what with Neoload you will be able to do in a more interesting way, is by being able to design and to prepare your test cases faster. Obviously you will have more time to execute tests, to analyze the results, to actually look at what matters and what brings value so that you can give the best to your stakeholders and to improve your applications. So that's quite important. So this way of addressing load testing has a strong impact on your operational efficiency. Obviously, in the end, this is what will enable you to reach the results you're asked, to increase the performance of the application, to reduce risks, and that has an impact on the entire organization, as much on the quality of the applications that are used on a day-to-day basis by the businesses, and also on your testing team itself. So you will be able to better allocate the value-adding resources you have. As mentioned previously, scripting as such is somewhat useless. That's not where the value is. That's not where you want to use the knowledge of your performance testers, and you want to focus your efforts where it actually matters, so where it brings you benefits, and that's executing tests, analyzing the results, finding where your bottlenecks are, making recommendations, and testing again so that you can be 100% sure and you have less risks every time you deploy a new application, every time you go in production. Obviously, it also has an impact on the motivation of your team and of your performance testers. You would be aware that good performance testers need to have a very wide knowledge of IT. Very different areas are involved into load testing, and a good performance tester is truly valuable and can improve your business. So you want to be using your testers for what they're good at, and obviously you want to retain them. And one important point in this is motivation and giving interesting tasks. And when you provide your testers with the right tool and they can spend more time on analyzing on testing and on actually doing what matters, it obviously is a lot more motivating. And in the end, what it enables you to do is to give better recommendations and reports, and that's value to your stakeholders. So, that's what will make you gain the benefits and gain the recognition internally on the importance of testing for your entire IT architecture. So let's now move on to the second part of this presentation, which is more focused on rich internet applications and on the complexity of today's web applications and the challenges that are around them for testing them in terms of load testing and performance testing. First of all, we're not here today to restart the debate on who has ownership of a rich internet application and what they are in terms of who provides them. So we'll use a definition that just says a rich internet application is capable of delivering a rich experience to the user. So by being rich experience, we mean that the application is more connected, more interactive, and more intuitive. And that is because rich internet application enable the interface to be updated almost instantaneously, and we're getting closer to real-time applications. So that also is very important for businesses. It also brings major improvements in terms of graphical design, makes the application a lot more ergonomics, more user-friendly, and more productive. So that impacts an entire company. If you had, save 10 minutes to 1,000 employees, that's a lot of minutes saved. So for these reasons, obviously we think that rich internet applications and web applications will have quite a bright future. So now, with to enter these issues and these new technologies being brought, what is behind it and what is being used? We'll say most AJAX-based frameworks, obviously the later ones, the newer ones, Flex and Air from Adobe or Silverlight from Microsoft, now Google with Google Web Toolkit. And obviously, with the importance of such applications, we will see arising a lot more of these frameworks and bringing a lot more complexity into performance testing. So that's one of the challenges of rich internet applications, and that is the rich internet application development frameworks are actually easier to use for developers. So the applications can be developed faster, which in return has a strong impact on testers and on load testers, which is that obviously if the application is developed faster, well, the testing cycles for performance is a lot shorter as well. So you must ensure that you're able to test faster to follow that path. However, it brings complexity because these development frameworks make it easier, but also hide some information, and that makes it more obscure for what is happening behind it. So, for load and performance testers, that actually brings complexity, as you may not know from your developers where the right dynamic parameters are, and they may not be able to help you as much as they were. So that's quite different. Another thing you may not know is actually, how many requests are being generated by such or such actions, and that's obviously a lot harder to handle. So for these applications, what we see also is that test cases and test scenarios are a lot harder to design due to these increased user interaction. So it's a lot more complex to create realistic scenarios, and obviously if you're not going to do a realistic test, I guess the question to what's the point of testing is quite right. So you must be able to keep creating the right test cases and scenarios, even though it becomes more and more complex. So it also, on the back-end part and on behind it, has a strong impact on browser-server interactions. If we can compare it with older technology, older applications where you had one request for one large answer, with rich internet applications you will have many small requests and many small answers, so that this very high number of requests impacts performance and impacts the way you need to tune and set up your servers. That's obviously especially true also for the way you configure your network interface configuration for your servers. So that needs to be taken into consideration and changes the way things are being done. Also, with rich internet applications, you will need to be able to manage specific behaviors, like new ones, like polling, like streaming, like push applications. And once again, that brings a lot more complexity for the way you do your tests and design your test cases, but not only. Something that I would like to really point out today and to focus is that performance criteria of rich internet applications are totally different. Simple response times may no longer be the right key performance indicator. In a long polling or in a push application, just a simple response time just doesn't give you the right information whether your application is responding correctly or behaving correctly. So, you must think also that with rich internet applications, you are going to have to redefine key performance indicators accordingly. So that's very important to know. It's something you must take into consideration. Another challenge that you will be facing it's to, you have to manage specific formats that are encapsulated in HTTP requests. If we take the example of Flex, Flex with AMF binary messages, it communicates in binary, so it's very obscure, and if you don't have the right technology to decode into something understandable like XML between the exchanges between the browser and the server, well then you can't actually perform the right load tests. You can't see where the dynamic parameters are. You can't change them to make your test scenario dynamic. So it's something that's quite complex, and unless you have the right technology behind it in order to do so, well, your test is just not going to be valid. And another challenge, we'd like to point out in terms of designing test cases is with the most recent web applications, you're going to have a higher number of asynchronous requests to deal with, a higher number of dynamic parameters, and a higher number of user interactions. So you must have a load testing tool that will handle these correctly, that will do it very simply and understandably, so that you can yourself work on this basis, and so that you must be able to define complex correlation rules within your tool set, because that's what will make you gain some time. After the first time you record a test scenario, if in just a few clicks you're able to define correlation rules and automate them for future recording, well, obviously it's going to make you save a lot of time when on the second record, in just a matter of seconds, then your entire scenario is being handled and all the dynamic parameters are being taken care of. So now I'd just like to point out, some of the applications you will surely come across and need to test efficiently with Neoload. You will be able to do this. And I'm sure you will come across these applications sooner or later. First one could be the Oracle E-Business Suite, which has uses the Oracle Forms protocol, which is a proprietary protocol and works a bit like what we've mentioned previously for Flex, so with binary exchanges and binary messages. So unless you have the right tool set to decode what's happening between the browser and server, you're not going to be able to make a realistic load test. And obviously, a tool set must also be able to support recent frameworks and HTTPS portals. Second one could be Siebel Web, with obviously a lot of dynamic parameters and also some AJAX and SAP Web, and pretty much all the CRM and ERPs are now coming out with web versions. So you're going to see them more and more, but you've got to keep in mind that these new releases of applications are actually quite complex to handle. So you want to have a tool set and you want to have something to handle it correctly for you. So now back to day-to-day activities and some few things you must take into consideration. Some of you, I'm sure, would already know most of these points, but it's important to say it again, I think, and not to forget any of them, especially. The first one is if you want to do a load test and a proper load test that's going to be realistic and give you results you can work with and give you confidence you can go into production, it's that you must be able to script all the major test cases. If you can only do 2 out of 5 or 2 out of 10 major user behavior on your application, then you've got no guarantee that it's going to be right in production. The second thing is you must be sure that the tools that you use can extract variables and do it well without using too much resources, because all the recent applications have a lot of dynamic parameters that you need to extract and to re-inject later on. Third one is response validation. I'd actually like to stress this one a little more than the others. Also, it's extremely important you put validations on your test cases when you run them. How many times have we seen people saying, well, I've got great response time on my application, and on the login phase, just to find out later on that the person got great response time because the server was saying just, you're not logged in. So make sure you put some validation on your requests and on the responses you get from the server to ensure that your scenario is correct while it's being under test. Obviously, in order to do so, you've got to be able also to have advanced variable management capabilities, and also you want to be able to reproduce realistic load tests. So your toolset must be able to reproduce different load policy. You might want to do some ramp ups, you might want to do some peaks, you might want to do some constant load, you might want to do some specific load that you can do yourself and tailor yourself with a graph, and that's all possible with Nailor. It's quite important. And last one, but definitely not the least important, is you got to have good error management, because in the results analysis, that's what's going to enable you to to give the right recommendations. So once you've performed your tests, you want to make your results talk. Obviously, that's definitely the most important part of a test. It's actually getting the value out of the test and seeing what happened, where the problems are. So if you want to be able to find your bottlenecks and to do it rapidly, because if it's going to take you months before finding where the problems are, well, it's definitely going to be too late. You must be sure you use the right monitoring for the different part of your architecture. That's your operating system, your database, your application server, your web server. And you've got to be sure that you have all these information in a timely manner with the same time format that you can correlate in graphs with your user load, with your response time. And that's what actually is going to enable you to rapidly analyze your results and to find where your bottlenecks are. So being able to build these graphs and to include it in your reports to give the right recommendation is crucial, and that's what's going to enable you to to retrieve the right information, retrieve the right data from the different part of your architecture to actually know for sure where your bottlenecks are. Then you can pinpoint the problem, pinpoint it to the development team, to the IT architecture team, and help them in resolving the performance issues. And your task is to do so, to do it fast, because time is always a constraint, and obviously it's bringing you great benefits if you can do so. And also something that's quite important is you want to be able to compare your results with reference tests, with your SLAs, so that you can know what your results stand for. And obviously the most important point behind this is if you do it rapidly, you can take the right corrective actions. You can test again to ensure that the tuning you've done or the changes you've done have actually worked. And before you go to production, you can be 100% sure that it's gonna be okay. So in the end, just to conclude and to resume, what we can propose to you and what we can offer to you, it's actually making it simpler for you with Neoload to test the latest web applications and rich internet applications, and obviously at a whole web applications that are actually the backbone of your company and that are increasingly important. So to do it well, you want to be able to do it earlier in the development process. So you want your test tool to be able to support the latest methodologies. You want to be able to test each new release. That's obviously the only way to reduce risk and to be able to compare the performance of a new release with a previous one. And you want to do it fast. That's not on the comparison that you must spend most of your time. And obviously, you want to spend your time on what is important, what brings value, and you want to use your resources internally for what they're good at. And that was obviously stressing the point that performance testers can bring a lot to your organization, and a performance test will give you the right confidence you can move to production. And one last point that's quite important in terms of projects and in terms of the way you communicate to stakeholders is make sure that, when you produce the reports, they are understandable by all and that you prioritize the information. Neoload has a reporting capabilities. You can generate reports, and it obviously stresses out the most important points you should look at. But that's especially true for you and for the communication you give to other people, the recommendations. Make it by order of priority and give the right information to the people that are expecting it from you. So that was it for the first part. Thank you very much for listening to me, for attending. Obviously, you can see for yourself what Neoload is capable of by downloading an evaluation copy on our website. We stay at your full disposal for any information you may need to help you in a proof of concept for your own application, or to answer any question you would have on rich internet applications or on testing web applications. We'll be very happy to hear from you, so don't hesitate, either by phone or by email. And I'll now let Benoit answer all your questions, and we've seen there's already a few. So thanks a lot for asking the questions, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining this presentation. I will answer all the questions you may have on load testing. Feel free to ask a question in the question tab. Okay. I have a first question on services-oriented architecture load tests, and what are the specificities of this kind of tests? So to be able to test services-oriented architecture, the tools you will have to use must be able to generate SOAP requests. Probably you will not have the web client, the web application able to send a SOAP request to your server to easily record all the scenario. So here, in this case, the tools need to have to be able to create the request using a description file of your services. Using such a feature, you will have to simply enter the description file and then pick the call you want to make on your server, enter the different parameters, and then the tool will be able to create the good SOAP request for you. Another feature you may want is a specific graphical interface to easily manage XML requests, showing, for example, the request had a tree view for all the data and things like that. So that's important to manipulate large number of data on your scenario. Okay, you will find all those features in the Neoload SOAP module. Actually, I'm going to check for another question. Okay, I have a question on the monitoring part and the importance of the monitoring of the server infrastructure during the test. Of course, load testing is a way to get a response time of your applications, but monitoring the infrastructure during the tests will help you to analyze the server behavior and how the server performed during the test. Of course, you will probably have your own monitoring tool, and you can of course use it during the test to get performance indicators on the server. But using the integrating monitoring of the load testing tools will allow you to correlate the client response with the server behavior. For example, you will be able to graph on the same graph the client response time with the load generated on the server, with the CPU or the size of the connection pool, for example. And then you will be able to correlate all the data and see what is wrong on the server infrastructure when the load increases. One of the added value here you may want of your load testing tools is to have a lot of monitoring and to be able to monitor a large number of components on your application, like the web server, the application server, some network component also, of course databases, and then another important things is to be able to monitor your infrastructure without having to install several agents on the server side. You will probably have to install and to give credentials to the load testing tools to connect to your application and to get several indicators during the test. But you should not have to install agent and to have a specific process, to not have a specific process running on your server during the test. Okay. I have a question on the hardware requirements for load testing, and more generally, maybe how many virtual users you will be able to handle with a machine. Basically, there is no limit on the number of virtual users you will be able to generate using Neoload. Neoload use a distributed architecture, so you will be able to install a lot of load generators, and each load generator will be able to generate the load on your server. The main question is how many virtual users will be able to generate, and what are the hardware requirements for generating such load. This is quite hard to understand because it depends a lot of your application, on the scenario, of the number of dynamic parameters you will have to handle. It will also depend on the number of extraction you will want to have, and the number of parameters you want to handle. But generally speaking, let's say that with a recent machine, let's say a dual core with 2 or 4 GB RAM, you will be able to generate from 500 to 1,500 virtual users on a single machine. What I wanted to add is that we have several customers that use Neoload to generate more than 20,000 concurrent virtual users on the application. Of course, to generate such load, they have a specific test environment and several load generators to generate the load. But just to say you that you can generate very high load using the distributed architecture. Okay, I have another question asking if we can mix Silverlight, normal web access, and web services requests in the single scenario. The response is yes. Yes, we can. Basically, what you will do is record all the requests you have. So you will record simply on your web application the Silverlight and the classical web calls to your application. You will probably use a SAP module to generate, using the description file, to generate the calls to your services. And then you will be able to, what we call that, to create your virtual users and to add to the virtual users all the actions this virtual user will have to execute on the server. In this virtual user, you can put a SAP request, and then just after a single web page, and just after a request on the Flex application. Simply, you will have to make a realistic test, okay? But you can mix all the feature and all the protocols within the same virtual user. I have a question on the license model for Neoload. You can find all this on our website, which is www.neotis.com. Basically, we have several models. You can get a permanent license, floating license. You can rent the software for a short period, but you will have all the information and all the pricing on our website. So okay, I have a question on the errors and what can we do after an error when a virtual user encounters an error. Okay, so using a scenario and when creating your virtual users, you will be able to handle all the errors as you want. Neoload basically say that the request is an error for every HTTP error code, so this is native. You do not have to parameterize anything for that. Then you will be able to add several validations on the server response, and then you will add your own validation to say that this request is okay or if the request is in error. After that, you will be able to handle the requests directly in the virtual users using a specific action like try catch, so saying for a specific list of actions, if an error occurs on these actions, what the user should do. Then the user should make a pause for several minutes and try again, or the user may stop its execution and a new one should be restarted, or you can do everything you want. After the test, you will be able to analyze all the errors in a specific tab on the result part of Neoload. And for each error, you will have the request sent by Neoload, the server response, and even the previous request before the error to be able to analyze all the context of the error. You also have in Neoload a specific mode to be able to get all the virtual users executions during the test to be able to analyze all the requests if you think there is a problem on the script or things like that. And in this mode where you see all the users' interaction with the server, you have an HTML rendering mode, so you can see easily if the server response is okay or not for each request sent by Neoload. Okay, I have a question on automation, load, and performance testing. Okay, so here, for the automation of load testing, we have two parts. The first one is to be able to launch the script regularly. Let's say that you want to launch your load test script every night and get the results in the morning in your mail. So here, we are able to design the script using the Neoload graphical interface, and then we have a specific command line mode to launch the tests all the night and to automatically generate the reports as a PDF format or HTML or XML if you want to parse the XML file and do something. So it's quite easy to launch the load tests every night and then send the reports to your team. But here, maybe the other question under that is how long does it take to maintain the script and to be sure that the scripts are okay to launch my test every night? Generally speaking, all the load testing tools are working on the data sent on the network directly because we have to generate high loads on the server. And so it's hard to use the graphical interface of the application to generate the load, like simulating the mouse clicks and things like that. So we record the data sent by the browser to the server, and we are able to put some dynamic parameters in it and play that with a lot of virtual users. So some little changes on the graphical interface on the web application had no impact on the load test scenario. Of course, if there is a major improvement on the application, and if there is the framework change, for example, on the server side, then all the data sent are wrong. And then you will have probably to record again all your scripts because it's true for all the load testing tools. It can be, when you have a big changes on the application, it's quite impossible to maintain the script and to keep the existing script and just change some parameters. But here, we have a specific feature to be able to handle the dynamic parameters of your application. So the first time you will record your script on your application, you will have to find your specific dynamic parameters. Neoload is able to find dynamic parameters for all the known framework, but if you have specific dynamic parameters for your application, you will have to find it and handle it manually. But then you will be able to add this rule, your own rule, in the tool. And so next time you will record the scenario on the application, Neoload will be able to find the dynamic parameters for you and to generate the good scenario and the good script for you. So record again the scenario on the application will be quite fast and this is probably the best way to do for all the testing tool. Okay. Okay, thank you very much for the questions. I guess I have answered nearly all the questions you have. Sorry again for the issue on the slide, and send us an email and get in touch with us if you want us to send you the presentation, or you should have the presentation also on the EuroSTAR website. Thanks a lot for joining this meeting, and we hope to help you soon with your load test.
Okay, thanks very much, Benoit, for an interesting presentation today. We'd wish to thank you all for taking the time out to be with us today. We apologize for the technical problems, and we'll have a copy of our slides sent around to everyone who registered for today's webinar. And also a recorded version of today's webinar will be sent out over the coming days and be available in the webinar archive. Can you now ensure to log out? The webinar is now finished.